Hi everyone. Today we're going to introduce you to just the creepy story of Skylar. The girl was born and raised in Carlisle, Ohio, a small town with a population of only 5,000. Skylar's brother was Jackson, and her parents' names were Kim and Scott Richardson. From the outside, it seemed like a small family living their perfect life. Growing up, Skylar and Jackson were both physically well-developed and shared a passion for sports. Jackson played on the local soccer team, and Skylar was a cheerleader, or to be exact, a flyer, which was the name given to a person who was tossed through the air. The girl did well academically. She was a member of the student council and actively participated in extracurricular activities whenever possible. She was also very passionate about cheerleading, but because she was being tossed around a lot, she had to struggle with an eating disorder, bulimia, which made her life difficult. According to Skylar's mom, the disorder started in the girl around the age of 12. Even back then, Skylar refused to buy gum because it had too many calories. Her mom endured several accusations that she had encouraged this behavior in her daughter and partially instigated it because she was passionate about maintaining a perfect figure and had instilled the same in Skylar. However, the mother denied the accusations and stated that the reason was that her daughter was a pilot. Besides, the parents did a lot to help Skylar. They made her see doctors, therapists, nutritionists, but nothing seemed to help. Additionally, Skylar kept many things to herself and wasn't inclined to be honest with her parents. The girls were eventually diagnosed with body dysmorphia, which is a mental disorder in which a person is overly concerned about a minor defect or feature of their body, and it begins or manifests in adolescence. In 2016, Skylar started dating her friend's cousin, whose name was Trey. They dated for a short period, nothing serious happened, and eventually they broke off the relationship. In 2017, the girl got a new boyfriend. His name was Brandon. Their relationship progressed and was the most serious one she had ever had. Skylar's parents liked Brandon, and they thought that the guy was a good influence on their daughter because at this time Skylar looked very happy, was in a good mental state for the first time in a long time, and even started gaining some weight. The parents thought that the eating disorder was not bothering the girl. She looked happy and healthy. As the relationship with Brandon was getting more and more serious, her mom thought that maybe her daughter should take some birth control medication and suggested going to see an OB/GYN, to which Skylar agreed. On April 26, 2017, the girl went into the doctor's office, and her mom stayed behind to wait for her. When Skylar came out, however, it was clear that she was crying, and her mom got worried. But Skylar calmed her mom down by saying that she was nervous because it was her first visit to the gynecologist. This wasn't true, however, because in the doctor's office, the girl was told that she was pregnant and in about 10 weeks she would give birth. But since the doctor couldn't find out when the baby was conceived, the due date was given approximately, even though at the time the baby was already 36 weeks old and Skylar was very close to giving birth. In the doctor's office, the girl was crying and very upset, and she discussed her concerns with the doctor. She said that her mom would be distraught if she came back from her appointment without birth control, since her mom didn't know anything about the pregnancy yet, and Skylar didn't plan on upsetting or pleasing her in advance. The doctor found no contraindications and prescribed her birth control. At that time, Skylar was already 18 years old, and since there was confidentiality, her mom was not told anything, and the girl went home knowing that she was about to give birth. A few days after this news, Skylar went to the prom with Brendan and wore a tight red dress that she had prepared back in February. Meanwhile, she was 8 months pregnant. But despite this, she attends the prom, where no one notices it, neither her parents, nor the people around her, nor her beau. And after the prom, the girl returned home and continued her everyday life. A few months after these events, the police arrive at the Richardson house and inform them that they need to speak with Skylar. The parents assured that the girl had no problems with the law, but the officers explained that it was necessary to have a conversation and took her to the police station. It was July 14th, 2017, and the parents could not have guessed what the police conversation would be about. It turned out that the police received a call from an OB/GYN who told them about Skylar's pregnancy and the rumors that the girl had allegedly given birth to a baby and buried it in the backyard. So, Skylar was brought into the interrogation room, and she began to tell her own story. She claimed that 2 months after her first doctor's appointment, she came to the clinic again and told the doctor that she had a stillborn baby. Skylar then begins to recount that on May 7th, 2017, she gave birth to a stillborn baby girl and that labor contractions started earlier than the doctor's due date. She didn't say anything to anyone and gave birth at night in the bathroom of her house. Coincidentally, next to the toilet was her brother's room. Skylar said the baby wasn't breathing when she was born, but she checked for a heartbeat. There was none. The girl then tried every possible means and method to save the baby, but nothing worked. She then went to the backyard, dug a shallow grave, and buried her stillborn baby herself. In her explanations, Skylar mentioned several times that she didn't kill the baby, that it was stillborn. Now, finding out if the baby was born alive or dead becomes a significant part of this case. After about an hour of questioning, the interview with Skylar came to an end. The police told her parents that their daughter was pregnant, had given birth, and now their granddaughter was buried in the backyard. The parents were confused and arrived at the station in great bewilderment, where their crying daughter rushed to them. She hugged her mother, cried, apologized, and told her everything. Skylar revealed that she had named the baby Annabelle and that it was the child of Ray, whom she had dated before Brendan. While the explanation with the parents and the police took place, some of the officers went to the Richardson homestead, and it didn't take them long to find the place, dig up the baby's body, and bring it to the pathologist for examination. Eventually, the girl and her parents were taken home by the police, but 6 days later, Skylar's parents received a call asking them to bring the girl back to the station for further questioning. Upon arrival at the police station, Skylar was read the pathologist's report, which stated that the child had a burn injury, as if it had been tried to be burned, but Skylar began to claim that she didn't know what they were talking about as she had not burned the child. When questioned, the girl was pressed and changed her statement and said that she may have burned the baby's feet a bit with a lighter as she was trying to cremate the baby. The more Skylar was under interrogation, the more her original version of events changed, and it became clear that the baby was alive when she gave birth, as the girl heard some gurgling sounds. So, on the basis that the newborn baby might have been alive and Skylar tried to burn it, she was charged with negligent homicide and should have been sent to custody. However, Skylar's parents posted the right amount of money as bail, and the girl was sent home until her trial. All local newspapers were full of headlines that the 18-year-old mother was on trial for killing, burning, and burying her newborn baby. They also wrote that bail was $1 million, but because the family cooperated with the investigation throughout the trial, bail was reduced by 50%. When Brock Skylar entered the courthouse this morning, her first words were that she was innocent of the death of her newborn baby. 2 weeks later, the case was presented to a grand jury, and Skylar was indicted again. This time, she was charged with aggravated murder, which is a severe charge in Ohio and carries a life sentence. The girl was also charged with manslaughter, child endangerment, and abuse of the body. Skylar's parents considered these charges to be absurd and tried to prove that their daughter had already given birth to a dead child and could not have committed such horrible acts. However, Skylar was sent back to jail, and her parents bailed her out again. The media successfully obtained this story and disseminated it widely. The case then gained traction on the internet, attracting a large number of people to the discussion. Many people were outraged, expressing anger and rage. Some even went to the courthouse, where they gathered with groups, discussed the murderous mother, and demanded the harshest punishment for Skylar. In cafes, bars, and outside homes, people discussed the story and demanded justice and harsh punishment. It was a tense time for everyone involved in the case. However, as time passed, another forensic report from a pathologist was released, and it said something very different. It said that the original report was wrong, and there was no evidence of burns on the baby at all. Skylar's defense immediately picked up on this and began to argue that they believe Skylar had been coerced into giving a false confession. Since she barely entered the police station at first, she said she didn't set the fire, she didn't kill, and it wasn't until some time later, when asked if she had tried to cremate the baby, that the girl admitted that she had tried to do something with a lighter. Then there's that story about the sounds that sounded like gurgling coming from the baby's mouth. It turned out that this version had been suggested by one of the detectives, who asked a question that was appropriately worded about the allegation. And Skylar confirmed that yes, there were sounds. After the new facts, the question became whether Skylar was telling the truth or was coerced into giving false information. But the prosecution stuck to their previous stance on the matter, and they said the defendant admitted in the interrogation room that she had burned the baby. They no longer cared about the DNA or autopsy evidence. So Skylar was sent to house arrest, and the girl spent her time reading books. She had plans to attend college, but they were put on hold for obvious reasons. In July 2019, the state contacted Skylar's lawyers and tried to cut a deal, saying they would drop the aggravated murder charge if Skylar agreed to plead guilty to the remaining charges. The girl decided to refuse, saying she wouldn't confess to something she hadn't done. Her lawyers were supportive, as it's still a lifetime of parole ineligibility. So the trial began on September 3rd, 2019, and the biggest problem the prosecution had was that there was no evidence that the baby was born alive. Their only argument was that Skylar herself said the baby gurgled a little bit. And the prosecution also had information about the girl's visit to the OB-GYN on April 26th, just 11 days before the baby was born. There was no way a baby who was healthy on examination, with his heart beating normally, could turn into a stillborn baby in just 11 days. In addition, it was proven that Skylar was taking birth control pills that her doctor had prescribed to her. She kept her pregnancy a secret from everyone and didn't want this child, as she didn't even put the father of this child on notice. Even if we imagine that Skylar gave birth to a live baby in the bathtub, what would she do with it? She didn't have diapers, bottles, or all the things one acquires when expecting a baby. Or maybe she would take it to its parents and announce, "Here I am. I gave birth. Let's take care of it," or "Let's give it up for adoption." This reasoning is based on the fact that Skylar never had a plan for what would happen to the baby when it was born. Instead, the pregnant girl Googled things like getting rid of the baby on the internet. Skylar may have contemplated an abortion, but when she found out it was too late, she was about to give birth, she took steps to terminate the pregnancy artificially. Skylar's prosecution also made the argument that the girl's mom was obsessed with vanity and maintaining the image of a perfect family. She had also accustomed and mentored her children from childhood in this vein. Also, prosecutors said that Skylar's mom likely knew about the pregnancy. The doctor's office accidentally sent the pregnancy results to Skylar's mom's email account. And when the mom tried to ask her daughter what it was about, the daughter replied that she didn't know. And it was likely a mistaken address. Based on the fact that Skylar hid her pregnancy from her parents, then secretly gave birth alone in the bathroom at night, one has to wonder what kind of relationship the daughter had with her mom. Not super close, but a trusting one where Skylar could have come to her mom with a problem. And if you watch the interview tape, you can highlight the main words the girl's mom says. "We had the perfect family and the perfect life." It is still worth stopping at the text messages, which once again confirm that Skylar's mom was aware of her pregnancy. Skylar texted her mom while trying to fit into a red prom dress. "I'm just freaking out. I want to look amazing again, and more than anything, I hate being like this." Another message was sent after giving birth. Skylar writes to her mom, "I'm so excited right now. It makes me want to wear something cute to dinner. Yay, my belly is finally back." Of course, mom had to ask what Skylar meant by not even suggesting pregnancy. Shouldn't mom get excited knowing her daughter has an eating disorder? But that didn't happen. There was a time when Skylar texted her mom that she had lost 9 pounds. And her mom texted back that she could only cry with joy and be proud of her daughter. It is hard to believe that the parents sincerely tried to help the girl with an eating disorder. Also, the investigation has a version that the mom helped Skylar maintain her weight with the help of laxatives, which is very scary and dangerous. It was also speculated that the mom was setting her daughter up to work out at the gym every day. They also examined a text message that Skylar sent to her boyfriend the night after giving birth. She wrote that last night was the worst night of her life, but she's feeling better and is happy now. Here again, the question arises, did Brandon not know about the pregnancy as he claims? During the trial, there was an explanation as to why the pathologist's initial report referred to a charred baby. But then, on closer examination, it was revealed that there were no burn marks on the baby, which is very strange. But also, experts said that there was no evidence at all that Skylar killed the infant or that the baby was born alive. It's becoming clear that it's already tough to determine anything after the death of a baby that was buried and laid in for about 2 months. To all of this, the defense argued that Skylar never mentioned that she cut the umbilical cord, and it could have been that it detached during the pregnancy, and this resulted in a stillbirth. The defense also cited Skylar's words about the appearance of the baby girl born, which was white and pale, as a stillborn baby usually looks. And they also claimed that Skylar had only gained 9 pounds, which is very dangerous in pregnancy, too low a weight for a mother. And that, too, could have contributed to the baby being stillborn. On September 12, 2019, the jury announced that they found Skylar not guilty on all charges. The only thing she was guilty of was the abuse of the body. Since Skylar did bury the baby, she was charged with a felony, which carries a year in prison. But for some reason, many were sure she wouldn't get that. The next day, Skylar was brought in to serve her sentence on a felony charge of abuse of a body. And that's when she was given 3 years probation. The family was greatly relieved that Skylar would not have to spend the rest of her life in prison. Still, the final verdict is perplexing, to say the least. Of course, if one believes that the stillbirth took place, still, 3 years of probation is not a sufficient punishment, even considering her youth and inexperience. Skylar's father asked the judge to bring his daughter home as soon as possible so that the family could help her deal with her eating disorder and take care of her health. In time, it was learned that the parents had placed Skylar in a center where she would be helped through a special program to cope with her eating disorder. The Richardson family put a small angel statue in the backyard where Annabelle was buried. Her parents often went out to that spot, usually sitting, mourning the girl whose body they no longer had. But police later allowed the child to be taken away and buried. Skylar's plans to go to college did not materialize the first or second time after applying. She was not accepted, hindered by her conviction. However, she later managed to get into a community college where she is studying to be a lawyer. And her defense attorneys gave the girl some work in their firm, and, according to them, Skylar is liked by everyone. Everyone loves her, and she loves her job and her studies. Subscribe to my channel. See you soon.